All right. Welcome to episode 5 of the BDS Hockey Pod. We are back after the winter break, boys. Apologize to all of our viewers, but we're on Monday nights, and we had December 25th was Christmas, and then January 1st. So 2 Mondays in a row, conflicted with holidays, and then last week I had some work conflicts, so I wasn't able to go, and so now we're back at it and ready to go. So how was the break, guys?
The break was great.
Luke's on a high today, and it has nothing to do with hockey, and we just gotta let it be.
Hey, I gotta say, I'm pretty good myself. New York's only NFL team is ahead.
Quarter,
so.
Wait, why kick a man when he's down? All right. I was rooting for the Bills. Now I'm not gonna see if Rudolph the quarterback reindeer can pull out a miracle in the fourth quarter right now.
But,
can't complain otherwise, except for the fact that my hockey team has not been playing good hockey since the last time we've spoke. Hoping they can turn it around.
It's kind of a role reversal here for the three of you and me. So
yeah, it's injuries have not been great, but things just haven't been working lately. I don't really know what the solution is, and I hope they can figure it out soon.
I think I would call it a role reversal if the Oilers were actually in a playoff spot and the Rangers were out of a playoff spot.
Rangers? No, excuse me. Oilers are in a playoff spot right now.
They are?
Yes.
Oh, are they sitting in a wild card right now?
Yeah, they're in the wild card right now.
Okay. All right.
And technically, if you go points per game, they're ahead of Vegas for the 3 spot in the Pacific. So
new year, new BDS. We're taking shots at each other already.
Yeah, already. Here we go. A little something fun tonight. We got, obviously we'll have our updated power rankings, and also we're going to revisit the 2012 NHL Draft. So a bunch of guys that I've never heard of, being as hockey was not even on my radar in 2012. So looking forward to seeing where you guys go with that.
Cody Ceci, that's all that matters.
Yeah, Brett Kulak and Cody Ceci definitely need to be 1 and 2 on the draft board because they've won their last 10 games. So how can you go wrong with that?
You'll definitely recognize some names as we go through them. There's no doubt. Well,
transitioning right along here, we'll get back into that in a little bit. But I wanted to get right to our power rankings because it's been, several weeks now since we've gotten to unveil our power rankings. And let's see here. So let me go ahead and pull those up for everybody. Let's see. Got to get the right slide. There we go. All right. So John, take it away on our power rankings for this week.
A lot of turnover in the power rankings since the last time we spoke, but it has been about 3 weeks of hockey since we last spoke, so a lot's going to change. I only had 2 teams enter and 2 teams leave, but I did have a huge shakeup in what we're seeing from an order standpoint. Last time we spoke, I didn't have the Winnipeg Jets in my top 5. I did admit that they were probably on the precipice, but they were not in my top 5 yet. And now I have them as the top team in the league. Winnipeg simply has done so well to this point. They are surprising a lot of people. I think people expect them to be a playoff team. I'm not sure people expect them to be the top team in the West, at least for a little bit. I think Vancouver did overtake them, which brings me right to my second team. It's a great time to be a Canadian hockey fan. Vancouver right behind them, playing really well. So much elite scoring options, so much puck possession. They are a very difficult team to play against. Can't have a top 5 without the hottest team in the league. The Florida Panthers have been winning games like it's nobody's business. They look like that team that made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and that's what Matthew Tkachuk not even playing at full speed. I'd hate to see what this team looks like when he is at 100%. Rounding out the top 5, the Bruins stick around. I haven't been overly impressed with the Bruins. They've also had some injuries, but they just keep winning, so they're going to stay into the top 5. I believe they're 6-1-3 in their last 10, and that's worthy of staying there. And as much as it pains me, I had to bump the Rangers out this week, and I had to put a division rival in place. The Hurricanes are still behind them in the conference chase, but they're playing much, much better hockey right now. Their goaltender, Kochetkov, has been playing really, really well, really helped solve their goaltending issues. They got Svechnikov back, and they're a dangerous team to play against right now. But that's where I'm at. Want to see where you guys are at. What are you thinking, Luke?
I finally get to put the Canucks at 1. I've had them in the power rankings every single week since we started this podcast. Like John said, elite scoring, great goaltending in Thatcher Demko. I know I say it every single week with the Canucks. Jets I did have at 5 before we went on break. They were starting to heat up. They had some issues with the power play at the beginning of the year. I think they're starting to figure it out. 8-2 in the last 10 games. Canucks 7-2-1 in the last 10 games. I'll go Canucks over the Jets in this case. Stay away from the clean sweep for the Jets. I know everybody had the Jets except me. I love how the Canucks are playing. I'm backing them since week 1. So I'll take Canucks 1, Jets at 2. They're definitely the hottest team in the NHL right now. I think John and I, we got a flip flop between the Bruins and Panthers too. Panthers easily could be 3 versus 4. But like you said, Bruins keep winning. They're tried and true. And I'll take the Avs. I'll take the Avs at 5. Playing just as hot as the Hurricanes right now, and again, elite scoring up in the front, solid defense, and a great goaltender in Georgiev. What do you got, Kyle?
I got the Jets at 1. I think the way that they've turned it around there has been awesome. Hottest team in the NHL right now. Avalanche at 2. They've won 3 in a row. Coming in here, Rangers still top of the Met, even though they've been sliding a little bit. I'll keep them at 3. Followed them by the Panthers, who look unbelievable right now. But we're gonna stick the right now on that until I see a little bit more. And then the Canucks finally got into mine. You guys have been believing in the Canucks for months now, but they're definitely an honorable mention goes to Ash's Oilers, who have won 10 in a row. They would be 6 for me right now. They're definitely on the cusp. And I use the algorithm for my power rankings, so it also believes that they're 6 right now. How about you, Ash?
I have the Winnipeg Jets up there at number 1 just because they've been playing so well. They moved into my top 5 the last time we had put one together. The Avs have been kind of straddling that top 5 pretty much all year, it feels like. And just the way they play, they moved up right behind the Jets now. The Canucks have been very reluctant to put in a top 5 all year, just because their PDO seems to indicate that they're going to regress a little bit. But at what point do you say, it's over half the season that you're at the halfway point, basically a little over. At what point do you say, hey, this is just who they are? They've got Demko, really good goalie there. They score a lot of goal, a lot of good offensive players too. So, at what point do you say, well, this isn't just puck luck and the Canucks, this really is who they are? So I had to put them at 3. I don't like to drop teams too fast. I know the Rangers have scuffled a little bit lately, especially dropping the one on the road to the Caps over the weekend. So, I had them held firm at number 1 for a long time, but they're still in the top 5 just because I don't like to drop teams too hard, too fast. And then moving into the top 5, the Edmonton Oilers, terrible start to the season, but fandom aside, this is a team that's 19-6 since Chris Knobloch took over. They are just playing some excellent hockey right now, scoring the puck. Like, even when they were losing games, their goal expectancy was at the top of the league. Their expected goals against was actually relatively decent. So it kind of makes you wonder, really, was it the coaching change or was it just they were due to start playing better? So I think this is kind of who they are. 19-6, like I said, since the coaching change, improved play all around. Evan Bouchard, I saw a statistic on him the other day where they ranked shots of 90 miles per hour or greater on the season. He's more than double the number of 90 mile per hour shots, the second place guy. So he's just been so fun to watch this year. Becoming one of my favorite players. One guy that kind of got snubbed, I felt like, on the All-Star team was Zach Hyman. I felt like even when they were playing bad, he was kind of like the one guy that has played steady all year long. So I kind of feel like he's a snub with the All-Star game. So kind of wish he would have gotten in there, but also like the fact that he'll be sitting home recuperating too. So no risk of injury during the break. But anyway, what did you guys think about the All-Star snubs and guys that made it?
Clearly, Vancouver was out in full force this year. I think all the guys. I think all the guys that they picked obviously deserved to make it, but it was crazy to see that after a couple years of seemingly Vancouver getting the one automatic, maybe sometimes two with Miller and Hughes, that all of a sudden they got everyone in this year. There was definitely some notable snubs. I know the reason why he couldn't be there, but it was still weird to not see Panarin selected with what he's done for the Rangers this year. I know that's just a formality. That's a little nuts to me. Ash, I do want to go back for just 1 second on your Chris Knobloch note. I do want to call out, as someone who follows Hartford, the Wolfpack, who was the team that Chris Knobloch was coaching before he went over to the Oilers, that before he left, the Hartford Wolfpack were 10-4, and since he's left, they're 12-10. This is a
interesting stuff. I hadn't seen that.
This is a damn good coach. He filled in really well last year or 2 years ago whenever Gerard Gallant and the coaching staff had COVID. This is a guy that deserved an opportunity. Once the Rangers hired Peter Laviolette, it wasn't going to happen for him. Really, really happy for this guy. Really happy he's turned the Oilers around and he's seen some success.
Yeah, and speaking of the All-Star games, what do you guys think about the uniforms? It's like
God.
They slapped a Carl's Jr. logo on top of the NHL logo and threw it on the shirt. So pretty terrible. Jeez. I'm not sure I like the format either. What do you guys think about the format? I know I'm going off subject a little bit here, but
are they sticking with the same for the last couple of years, or do they change it?
They got the 4 teams and they're drafting the teams or whatever.
Oh, so it's not even aligned with the divisions anymore.
No.
So it's okay. So it's more like
actually. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I like the 3-on-3 divisional format.
Yeah,
I thought it was entertaining. We're considering what the All-Star game is and what it means. I mean, I thought it was fun. I didn't really see the need for the change.
Yeah. No, I mean when it was just East versus West, 5 guys on the ice, and like no one was hitting each other, and it was just, all right, we're going to go in this direction, and then we're going to go back in this direction, and just take a bunch of shots on some top tier goaltending. Game ends up being 12-11 at the end. I might as well just go in that entire direction and just make it 3-on-3 and make it exciting, rather than just 5-on-5.
This is why the MLB All-Star Game stays goated. It's the only one that you get the true feel of the sport.
I really like the events in the All-Star Game for the NHL as well. I know it's like kind of silly and whatever, but I get a good kick out of seeing those guys and like almost like a practice sort of scenario, just seeing like how hard Evan Bouchard can shoot the puck. Like we know how many times he could shoot it over 90 miles an hour, but can he hit hard? Like just silly stuff like that. Passing challenge accuracy and all that stuff.
That's what these sports got to do outside of baseball, who can play a real game at that point and not really too much risk of injury. These other sports, they got to kind of lean into the gimmickiness of the All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Kyle. I think that's almost more fun than the game sometimes.
Yeah. I know the NBA. The NBA has been doing it for a long time with the 3-point contest, dunk contest. But what's interesting now is the NFL is almost adopting that same mentality as, hey, we're not even going to focus on the game anymore. We're going to play dodgeball. We're going to do all these quirky challenges, and then play flag.
I think tug of war is coming into the NHL thing, or the NFL thing,
NFL
Pro Bowl weekend or whatever. I think I saw that they were going to introduce a tug of war contest. So that's kind of crazy. I'm glad they're not doing that in hockey.
That's funny.
But anyway, speaking of future All-Stars, actually, we do have a comment here. I'll pull it up. Let's see. Colin says it also lets All-Stars actually be All-Stars. It makes one-on-one much more significant and enjoyable to view, especially as not a diehard hockey fan.
That's a good point.
What do you guys think about that comment?
It's nationally televised. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people can gravitate towards that. If you have ESPN on, you're like, all right, NHL All-Star Game. It's easy to see the guys' faces when they're doing the skills things. So you get an idea of what the player looks like. And I don't know. There's a lot of personalities involved. There's a lot of one-on-one interviews with reporters right on the ice. I feel like it's a nice way to integrate yourself into the game from a neutral or a non-fan perspective.
It also helps introduce you to other aspects of it too, like how the NHL does. They bring in some of the top women's players too, and they bring that in. You get to learn a little bit more about that. I know different sport, but the NBA is brought in some like G League players for some of these skills competitions. When you lean into the gimmickiness of it, you can kind of market it a little bit better too.
Yeah, they've moved so far from the John Scott days where they
That was my favorite All-Star game. I don't even care.
they literally kicked him out of the league so he couldn't be an all-star. And now, but now they've embraced the individual, because I think they've seen how successful the NBA and the NFL have been, marketing individual players, and how fans can really gravitate to them rather than just your team fandom.
Gotcha. And speaking of, future all-stars and that kind of thing, when you look back to 2012, I'm sure there was a number of future all-stars in that draft. So we'll segue into, we're going to put together a redraft of the 2012 NHL draft, and let the other guys kind of give their takes on it. I'm going to just moderate the draft, because obviously, anybody that's watched the pod very long knows that, I didn't start watching the NHL until this season, so I don't really have a firm grasp on the history of these players and how they were. Like, I adopted Edmonton as my number one team. I see they had the number one overall pick. I've never even heard of him, so it looks like that was a clear bust in 2012. With, and I don't even know how to say it, Niall Yakupov. I'm not sure how you even say that, or if I'm butchering it or what, but I'll bring up our Google sheet so that we can type in the names as we go along. And starting it off, I'm sure that everybody wants to pick Cody Ceci and Brett Kulak, because like I said before, like they've won their last 10. So they're clear-cut winners. But anyway, Luke, I'll let you kind of introduce the topic and go about the format that we're going to have here.
Sure. Yeah. No, we just got this sheet up here. John, Kyle, and I are gonna draft some players. We'll go in snake order. So John will go first, Kyle, then me, and then I'll go again. And I think talking before the podcast, I think the three of us took different approaches, to how we drafted. But basically we're going to be sitting in the GM, each team's GM seat for the first 10 picks on the 2012 draft. And it'll be cool for the viewers to see, how those
touchdown Buffalo, by the way.
Who scored?
I don't know. I just looked over and they were all celebrating. So,
all right.
The TV's to my left, so it's hard
there are parlays on the line. So, yeah. So the three of us, put us in the GM seat for the first 10 picks. And for the viewers too, y'all be able to see, how those players, panned out and compared, in comparison to who was actually drafted. So be an interesting exercise to see how we stack up, with kind of the retrospective knowledge that we have now. So with that said, we can get this redraft going, and John, you're first on the clock here.
Yo, let me set the scene for you for this first overall pick. All right, we have the Edmonton Oilers with the first overall pick here. Originally, they selected forward Niall Yakupov. Now, at the time, the absolute best pick. He was the best player on the board. He was a surefire number one. A lot of people were ready to declare him as the next best thing in Edmonton, especially with some other forwards that we didn't know we were getting yet, like Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Draisaitl coming down the line. Would have been just a spectacular player to go with it. But it didn't work out. And we look at these Edmonton teams modern day. I try to treat things in a little bit of a view of hindsight. We got the forward help. We even have some defensive help on the way. But the biggest struggle of the Edmonton Oilers to this point is goaltending. They have not been able to figure out the goaltending. So right now, the last first overall pick that was a goaltender was Marc-Andre Fleury in 2003. But in our 2012 redraft, I am ending that streak, and I am going with the best goaltender of the 2010s, in my opinion, goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky out of the NHL to solve their problems.
Way to go, John. Way to go.
I don't know if that's supposed to automatically populate, Luke, but I put it in.
I'll fix it. And Kyle can go ahead. I think I might have spelt him wrong. There you go.
I think that's an excellent pick. You said defending is on the way. I need defending to be there right now, especially point production from the back end. If we're looking at the 2011, 2012 roster, I'm picking up Morgan Riley.
Really jumping up to the top.
Morgan.
With that first overall, let me pull up and just make sure I know where he's coming from. Morgan Riley coming out of Moose Jaw. Love my guys from Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaw. Moose Jaw. All right. Well, I get the third pick in the first round, third choice of the first round. First pick, and the first choice of the second pick, and I had it pre-written. I'm not going to go off script here. John, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it with the first overall pick. I think Edmonton, like you said, just elite up front. They've had, scattered defensive pieces throughout the last decade. But man, they needed goaltending. They needed goaltending, and Andrei Vasilevsky, the big cat out of Russia, two-time Stanley Cup champ, both in 2020 and 2021. 2021 Conn Smythe winner, so the best in the playoffs during that Stanley Cup run. 2019 Vezina Trophy winner, and a two-time All-Star in 2019 and 2021. He is an elite goaltender. And I will say in this draft too, Tampa did recognize him as an elite goaltender. They didn't take him 10th overall with their first pick in the first round, but they did take him 19th, which is rare for a goaltender to go in the first round. So obviously there was definitely some talk about how good Vasilevsky was going to be coming out of the draft. So I am going to take Andrei Vasilevsky with the first pick as well. And we move on to the second pick with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I'll tip my cap to Kyle too. Morgan Riley's a great pick. I think he's the best defenseman coming out of this draft. And I think Columbus was definitely looking towards defensive core, taking Ryan Murray. No disrespect to Ryan Murray, but I think Morgan Riley is definitely a better player. And it's definitely panned out a lot better. Surprising enough, only an All-Star one time, and it was this year in 2024. So Morgan Riley will get his first All-Star appearance this year. Solid on the back end, great offensive player as well, and has really meshed well with the Toronto core, with Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares as well. So second pick, Morgan Riley. Kyle, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, with Columbus's pick and going through Columbus's roster for that year, I think they needed the potential for a franchise offensive player. They had some good pieces, some good hardworking guys. Cam Atkinson was there at this point. Derek Brassard, Rick Nash, who Luke loves, was in there too. I think they needed to go to Lexans and pick up Philip Forsberg, who scores in 40% of his NHL games. Taking Phil for Columbus.
Yeah.
And for the second consecutive round, we're in a 2/3 majority. I'm with you there, Kyle. Hard to pass up on Philip Forsberg. Number one in this class in goals, number two in this class in assists, number one in this class in points. Columbus needs just about everything to help them with their organization, but a true elite scoring center, is exactly what could really help accelerate this team. So hard for me to not also go with Philippe Forsberg for the second pick for the Jackets. I will hop into the third pick, though. So originally, we have the Canadians who took Alex Galchenyuk. Now, believe it or not, Galchenyuk is one of the top scorers from this class. If I believe correctly, he's actually the fifth leading scorer from this class. He had some real good years But unfortunately, he's gotten into some discipline problems and is now playing overseas. So I chose not to put him in my top, and I chose the redraft here. Now, this is one of the few that I decided to stay with position. Montreal needs help in the forward position. They need scoring. Unfortunately, the top scoring option is off the board in Philip Forsberg. So in this case, I'm going to go with what I find to be the second best scoring option in this class, the second leading scorer from this class, Thomas Hertl. In this class, Thomas Hertl has 480 points. That's second to only Philippe Forsberg, and 216 goals. Again, second only to Philippe Forsberg. I think he could really, really help add a dynamic element to the offense of the Montreal Canadiens. Where's your mind at, Kyle?
Going with the exact same thing, and you explained it perfectly, and I don't have anything else to say. They need somebody that can score and play the center position, and the next best option is going to be Thomas Hertl.
Man, you guys put the pressure on me here. For me it was a toss up between Forsberg and Hertl here. Originally I was gonna go Forsberg again, like for the reasons that John stated, top scorer in this class. But Kyle and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, between the differences between Hertl and Forsberg. Points are only as good as the team that you're put on. Forsberg has been on some really great teams in Nashville, and not to say that Hertl hasn't been on some great teams in San Jose, but over the last recent years, you've definitely seen the point production go down just based on the players he's playing with. So I mean, there could be an argument that Hertl could have been the best forward out of this class and could have had the most points. I'm going to make it 3 for 3 on the third pick, and I'm also going to take Thomas Hertl as well. So lack of originality, check, and we'll move on to the fourth pick here, to the New York Islanders, who took Griffin Reinhart. You can see the stats up there. Clearly did not work out for the Islanders very well. 37 games played, 2 points. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. They went in the defensive position. They went with a defender there. You look at the Islanders over the last 10 years. Great defensive team, great goaltending has really been the mantra for this team, but they're just missing that top scorer. With Hertl off the board, we're going to put Forsberg in at 4. So I know you guys took him 2. He's going to fall back. He's going to fall back to 4 for me. And I will pass it off to Kyle.
Yeah, I was going through the Islanders roster, and they needed a lot of help. They had a 23-year-old Kyle Okposo. John Tavares was 20 at this point. So you think that they've kind of built up that offensive core. Also, my boy Nino Niederreiter was in there at 18 years old. So I'm going to be looking for a two-way defensive option that can get those young guys involved. And I actually went with Hampus Lindholm for the Islanders. I mean, as great of a pick as Griffin Reinhart turned out to be, it didn't really pan out for them. So I'm going to go with still a defensive option, but obviously a player that's been significant over his career as a two-way defenseman. John, who do you have?
First round of the draft, where all three of us are different. I did not take Lindholm here, and I did already take Philip Forsberg off the board at this point. The Islanders. The biggest complaint about the Islanders over the last couple of years has been that they're a little bit of a boring team, even when they were good. Right now, they're dealing with some ups and downs, but they were winning games 2-1, 2-0, maybe 3-2 sometimes. And I think part of the biggest problem is they did have some good defensive defensemen at that time. They had Ryan Pulock, they had Adam Pelech, they had a bunch of other guys, but they really lacked that dynamic, that puck-moving defenseman. So I'm going to take a guy at this point who's off of both of your boards to help give them some much-needed points on the back end of the blue line, and this is where I have Morgan Rielly coming off the board. Obviously, a far more productive player than the original player they took in Griffin Reinhart. I think that Riley gives them that much needed puck moving element at the blue line, and maybe could help make them a little bit more dynamic offensively. We're going to snake right back around, and we're going to hit our midway point of the draft with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, I'm going to go back in time a little bit to my first pick of the night. Toronto's another team, a lot of scoring depth over the years. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Riley, so many guys can put the puck in the net. This is another team that has frankly dealt with, similar to the Edmonton Oilers, goaltending issues. They have not had that guy to really lock things down. They had Frederik Andersen for a while. They've had a rotating group of goalies since then. I think they solve it here with another Vezina winner in their own right. From the Odessa Jackalopes out of the NAHL, I had to look this up. We're going to go with Connor Hellebuyck. Thank you. Kyle, where's your mind at?
My mind was at Teuvo Teravainen.
All right.
For this pick. And I did this about a month ago. So I am going through everything, and I do not see him in the first 2 rounds that I have listed on my sheet. So I can only imagine that he dropped way too far. And I think he belongs in the top 10. And I think if he was playing alongside those guys that you mentioned there in Toronto, it would have been dangerous. Teuvo Teravainen going 5th overall. And he doesn't even have stats to go in there, because
he's such a steal that you couldn't get him. There you go. You gotta get all the accent marks in there.
Yeah. I guess. But yeah, that put that point production being put right into that roster in Toronto, it would have been a no-brainer if they had hindsight.
Yeah. And Teravainen went 18. He went to Chicago. Big, they were kind of in that midway, still building off those cup wins. And he was definitely a piece there as well.
It's right over.
For the second time in this draft, just like the first round, John and I are seeing eye to eye here. And I'm taking Connor Hellebuyck for the exact same reasons. And for the exact same reasons I took the big cat with the first pick. Maple Leafs are almost there, but if they had an elite goaltender, they would be unstoppable. And Connor Hellebuyck has been that elite goaltender again since he started in the league. For him, 2020 Vezina Trophy winner, 4-time All-Star, including this year in 2024. Back in 2018 was his first All-Star appearance. 2020 and 2023 as well. The guy is world class, and a lot of people questioned whether Winnipeg should have given him a contract extension this year. 100% they should have given him a long-term deal. He is one of the best, if not the best, goaltender in the league right now. So Connor Hellebuyck going to Toronto. So we are halfway through. We have not moved anyone back yet. So all the picks that we have taken are all moving up from their original spots. How are we feeling about everybody's picks right now?
I guess the biggest takeaways that I have so far is I thought it was interesting how, Luke, you had Hertl and Forsberg's flip from the other guys. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic. And then also the fact that Luke and John both have taken 2 goaltenders, whereas Kyle has taken none. So it just shows you kind of like where people value certain things. And so it's just kind of been interesting for myself, being fairly new to the sport of hockey, to watch how different people value different things. And I just thought it was interesting thing to kind of notice there.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on that point too, and not to put you on the spot, Kyle, but Ashley is wondering why you haven't taken a goalie yet, and I'm curious about that as well.
Do you guys know how many first overall goalies have gone in the draft?
I'm going to say 0. Oh,
there have been 3.
I looked it up.
It's highly uncommon, and Vasilevsky 100% in hindsight, guarantee. If you could look back, or you could look forward and see what he's done. I didn't see it as a need for any of the teams so far, but I think I'm going to surprise you with the second half of this top 10.
All right.
Nice. If anybody's wondering, it's Marc-Andre Fleury, Rick DiPietro, and Michael Placé back in 1948.
Oh, I remember those days. He was.
Do you have are you on the gross ad site too that I pulled up for that?
I'm on quanthockey.com.
Yeah, there's some gross ads on quanthockey.com. Don't ever go there.
Can we John, do you have his stats readily available?
Who's
a Class A?
Class A?
Yeah.
He was drafted in he was born in 1948. That's my bad. So he must have been drafted in 1964 when he was 18. Played 298 games in the NHL and unfortunately did not have the best stats. 92 wins, 136 losses, a 3.79 goals against average, and an 881 save percentage. On the bright side, though, he does have the lowest amount of penalty minutes on this list of goaltenders with only 52.
Wow. That's a bust. That's a bust. That's a 1964 bust.
He was drafted first overall by the Montreal Canadiens in the 1968 draft, and then was drafted by the Kansas City Scouts in the 1974 NHL expansion draft.
Ooh.
A
little history lesson on Michael Placé for you today.
There we go. Can we meet in the middle here? Can we Rick DiPietro is a topic. Rick has not come up in this podcast, and he's interesting. So what's DiPietro's stats look like?
DiPietro, he played 318 games. A little bit more respectable on the numbers, 130 wins, 136 losses, a 287 goals against average, and a 902 save percentage. Of course, we know he dealt with some injuries.
Yes.
But definitely a bit more talented.
Was he had the 10-year contract, right, with the Islanders?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And now he's got a killer talk radio show in New York sports. So.
Oh, I love DiPietro on the talk show. I used to love listening to him when I was in New York. I have a lot of respect for him, and a lot of people give him crap about the 10-year contract, but that's a two-way street.
100%.
That's a two-way
it's an organization problem. It's not the player's problem to get as much money for as long as you can.
Yeah.
It's not like he bailed out for any other reason than he couldn't play anymore.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think from what he said too, the deal was made to help the organization to reduce his AAV. That's just the risk that the Islanders had to take. So nothing on Rick there. But I think he was always a great goaltender, and I think an even better talk show host.
Difficult thing looking back on the Rick DiPietro draft is Danny Heatley and Marian Gaborik went 2-3 right after him. I'm sure Islanders fans would have liked to have a little bit more dynamic scoring than what DiPietro wound up with. But hey, that's why we do these redrafts, and it's fun to look back and see what could have been. So I personally like to see where Luke's at with the six pack.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's get back into the draft. Ducks have been an interesting team over the last 10 years. I think playoff bound a couple times, but just in constant rebuild. I think over the last 4 or 5 years. I like their pick. I like their pick for Hampus Lindholm. I think he's the best defenseman on the board for me right now. Might be the best player available right now as well. So I'm going to stick with Hampus Lindholm. I know Kyle took him up a little bit higher at the 4th pick, and he had already taken Morgan Riley off the board at 1. So I'm going to stick with Hampus Lindholm, and we'll slide him in. Fun fact about Lindholm was he was 2014 All-Rookie. Did not win Rookie of the Year, but was on the All-Rookie team that year. So, and that is the first pick that is stuck with the original pick, and I will pass it off to Kyle now.
Yeah, this Ducks roster is kind of stacked. It's wild. 2011 and 12.
They were good.
Teemu Solani, Corey Perry, Bobby Ryan, Getzlaf, Saku Koivu, Cam Fowler. Like, you just keep naming names that are like hockey fan like household names.
Did Brian Kessler at that point?
No.
Do they have Silver?
But they did have a 20-year-old Kyle Palmieri.
Okay. Okay.
Pat Maroon was 23.
Jeez.
Like, this team was good. And you know what would have made this team absolutely great?
Goaltending.
Oh boy.
Andre Vasilevsky.
Disrespect to John Gibson.
Come on.
Do you know who their goalies were?
No, I don't.
I can tell you. I'll tell you, and you still won't know who they are. Jonas Hiller, who actually had almost a 91% save percentage. Not terrible. He was 29 and 30 in front of that team, or behind that team. And Dan Ellis backed him up. Jeff Drouin-Delorier and Eero Tarkki. They needed Bassey.
Jonas Hiller was a baller. I don't care what you say. And I'm like 99% sure that Dan Ellis was the backup goalie for the Rangers for a little while.
I know he was definitely the backup in Nashville. And who was the other one? Tassie?
Drouin-Delorier and Eero Tarkki.
Tarkki. Oh, that guy was a stud, let me tell you.
He played 41 minutes. How do you play 41 minutes?
Dude, the greatest 40 minutes of his life right there.
You pull your goalie 1 minute into the third period?
Yeah.
Is that how you play?
Also, I will say I was wrong. He did not play for the Rangers. He played for the Stars, the Preds, the Lightning, the Ducks, the Hurricanes, the Stars again, and the Panthers.
So basically everyone but the Rangers.
Yeah. I was close. I was so close.
Yeah.
New York's only NFL team has won the first round of the playoffs.
Hey, congrats.
There we go.
How are we doing on alternate rush? I'm just kidding.
It's kind of interesting. Ash brought this up when we were talking at the midway point about how it's difficult to see it's interesting, to see everyone's different perspectives when we go through this. Kyle, you had Hampus Lindholm at 4. Luke, you had Hampus Lindholm staying at 6. I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler for my draft, guys. I do not have Hampus Lindholm in my top 10. Maybe that's an oversight on my part. I did have some defensemen I liked a little bit better than him, including the guy I am going to take with the 6th pick. This is a guy that I think is currently the most underrated defenseman in the National Hockey League. I think part of it has to do with the fact that his team is one of the more underrated teams in the National Hockey League. But I've always loved the way this guy plays the game. I'm going to stick with a defenseman here, and I am going to go with Jacob Slavin.
Slavin.
Wow. I was expecting a different Jacob, but okay.
Yeah, I heard Jacob, and I was like, underrated team.
You're getting ahead of yourself. Jacobs could be wild this round, but let me talk about Slavin for a second. I think this guy might be the best defensive defenseman. I know he doesn't have as much of an offensive game, but I also don't think the Hurricanes ask him to do as much offensively with the way they play. They lean heavily on their forwards and the scoring depth they have across their lines. I think Slavin is the perfect defenseman for that team. I don't know if he'd be the same player in Anaheim, but I do think what he has shown, he deserves the opportunity to move up in my mind. So I got Slavin at 6. But like I alluded to, Jacobs might be a little wild as we head into the 7th pick. I know there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with Minnesota, some of the hits they've taken, some of the injuries they've had. Wouldn't it be nice to have a big-time defenseman who could block shots and protect your guys? everybody outside of New York loves to hate the guy, but I think Minnesota would love to have this guy on their team. I am going to take Jacob Trouba with my pick here for the Wild at the beginning of the 7th round. Be interesting to see if they got the Trouba in Winnipeg that was a high-scoring defenseman, or the Trouba in New York that became more of a shot blocker, fighter, leader guy. I think either way, it's worthy of the pick here. I think obviously, of course, you'd rather have those early years in Winnipeg, but I think either one of those players would really benefit where Minnesota's at right now.
Yeah, no, a defenseman with 300 points over the last 10 years, I'll take that.
I believe that Trouba came into this draft as an offensive defenseman. I think that's how he was billed with the U.S. junior program. But that's what I'm going with as well for the Wild. I can pull up their roster real quick after I pop them in here. But they had some.
Who was on the 2012 Wild?
They had some good offensive threat, but they also had good defensemen as well. Scandella, Falk.
Not Justin Falk.
Yeah, Justin Falk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought he was drafted by the Blues.
Was that when they had Devin Dubnyk, or was that way too early?
This is before. This is when they had Nicholas Backstrom in goal.
I like some of these walks down memory lane.
This feels like it's like 50 years ago.
God.
They had Danny Heatley, Kyle Brodziak, Mikko Koivu, like this team.
Jinx.
This team feels like I'm watching a VHS tape.
Betamax or VHS.
And you know what?
Luke doesn't even know.
Jared Spurgeon. Jared Spurgeon was 21 years old on this team.
Wow.
And yeah, I would assume that Jared Spurgeon would be who he would be partnered with, just to develop that offensive game. I think they go Troops.
Luke, we got a clean sweep this round.
You know what? You nailed it, and not nailed Jakob Poffit, but you nailed it. Yep, Jacob Trouba. You guys have hit the nail on the head here. I think it's a perfect fit in Minnesota. Rochester guy, USHL, and I think quite possibly the biggest hitter in the NHL right now. Like John said, regardless of whether they develop him as offensive or defensive defender, I think he's easily the 7th pick in this draft. Maybe had an argument for the Ducks for me with the 6th pick, but I like the left-handed defenseman going to Anaheim instead of Trouba going there. So that's two clean sweeps. I think everybody liked Tomas Hertl with the 3rd pick. Everybody liked Jacob Trouba with the 7th pick. We'll move on to the 8th pick, Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not going to take too much time for the Pittsburgh Penguins because I don't want to take any time with the Pittsburgh. So I'm going to give them Damon Severson, great defenseman, great right-handed defenseman. Can really envision him paired up with Chris Letang. That would really be an elite blue line there. Great years with the Devils, and now with the Blue Jackets. I think Damon Severson is definitely deserving of the 8th pick, and he was drafted all the way back, I believe, at the end of the 2nd round by the Devils. But I could go back and check that.
Do you guys know they originally wore blue jerseys?
Yes, light blue.
I saw that the other day. I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of interesting."
They were kind of cool looking.
Yeah, I was watching a little documentary on YouTube about history of the Penguins, and I guess like the original owner's daughter liked penguins, and that's why they were called the Penguins.
God, I hate them so much.
You know how the Rangers got their name?
No.
Their original owner, I can't remember what his actual name was, but everybody called him Tex. And when he bought a hockey team, they said he bought it, and a local newspaper called them Texas Rangers, and he rolled with it. And that's how they got their name. All right, Kyle, where are you at?
This one's Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This was an acquired pick. So a little bit of a freebie. They had Malkin, they had Crosby, but I don't recognize any of the other centers. I think that they go with Alex Galchenyuk, just as a development guy. He did go third actually in this draft, so I could imagine that his stock was really high coming in. But he's been extremely productive, and I think he would have served as like that second line, third line center for them for a long time.
All right, let's knock out these back-to-backs. I'll be the last guy on the Pittsburgh round. Opposite of a clean sweep, we all got different players here. I did not take Severson or Galchenyuk at this point. To me, there wasn't a guy on the board that I felt was a more perfect fit with the team I gave them than this one. This is where I went with Teuvo Teravainen. I think this guy is a perfect fit for the Penguins. I'm glad he's not on the Penguins. I also wish he wasn't on the Hurricanes. But I think that he is the perfect guy to play alongside with Crosby and Malkin and chase a few more cups when they were in their prime. So hard for me to not go in that direction here for the Penguins. I think that would have been a great fit for them instead of Derek Pouliot, who I believe is no longer in the league or is playing in AHL. Going down to round 9. So the Winnipeg Jets originally selected Jacob Trouba here. Unfortunately, he is no longer on the board, so they are going to have to look in a different direction. And, my next pick might interest you guys a little bit. Maybe it's because I think he deserves to go here, or maybe it's because truly I just want him as far away from New York as possible. But I think Winnipeg could use a gritty scoring forward that not only puts up points, but also gives you a little bit of edge. I'm going to go with Tom Wilson here.
Oh.
That's a good pick. That's a really good top 10 pick. He's been so productive, and he obviously does a lot for an organization.
Yeah. I'm happy to get him way out of the Metro, but I really do think that, if he's one of those guys that I hate him because he's not on my team, but if I was a Caps fan or a fan of any team he was on, I probably love the guy. It's kind of our version of Trouba. That's my pick there. I think that'd be a great fit for the Jets to help out with Ehlers and Scheifele and Connor. As they got a little bit better over the years.
I will say, I dump on Tom Wilson, but watching some of the Capitals casts, they talk really highly of his leadership. I don't know if he wears an A on his jersey, but there have definitely been talks of when Ovechkin retires, that Wilson could step in as the next captain of the Caps. Great leadership qualities. I can play basically any line. For me, it's just the disciplinary stuff that kept him out of the top 10 for me. But great skater, great hitter. And like I said, any line he can pair up on.
I can tell you, it was before a Winterhawks game. Mary Kate and I were at the bar right by the stadium, and a Caps fan came over because I had the Rangers game on my phone, and he would not stop talking about Tom Wilson. The whole market loves this guy, and he is our Trouba, and they appreciate everything that he does, dirty or not, and that's just I guess what you lean on.
Yeah,
I went with somebody kind of similar, a guy that you can lean on in any situation. Coming out of Dubuque, Fighting Saints in the USHL, 645 games played, 83 goals, 93 assists in his career. I think the Winnipeg Jets needed a guy that could kill penalties, also play on the power play. Zemgus Girgensons.
Oh boy!
What a pick! What a pick!
Not only did he get selected, he got moved up.
We got some debuts in this round.
Ooh!
Listen, I we have a little bit of fun with Zemgus. Yeah, there you go, Colin. We have a little bit of fun, but I do think he is a really good player for what he offers an organization. you look back on where he was picked and you wish he would have provided more in terms of scoring, but he is a great fourth liner. He's a leader. He's the definition of the grit the team should be looking for, not just a big burly guy who fights and can't skate. He adds a little bit of skill. The Jets could do much worse here.
Yeah. And, he did get picked at 14th. So, I mean, obviously there were eyes on him that year. Great in the face-off dot. Great penalty killer as well. So definitely some added values there. So yeah, no, I like the Z pick at 9.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat to see who Luke's going with, because we got 2 guys that debuted on the board now.
Yeah,
close it out, Luke.
3?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go 3 for 3 here. I'm gonna kind of steal John saying before. We're gonna go Jacobs Wild in 9. Winnipeg went with Jacob Trouba. I'm gonna go with Jacob Slavin here. Again, great defensive defenseman. Left-handed shot. A fun fact about Slavin, Lady Bing winner. Very good discipline, very good sportsmanship with him. And he was also a 2020 All-Star as well, and definitely deserving of a top 10 pick. I had Riley, Lindholm, Trouba, Severson, and Slavin. Slavin was my 5th defenseman. My draft board's looking pretty defense heavy here. And with that said, I'll segue into the 10th pick with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's been already taken twice, both by John and Kyle. I'm going to take Teuvo Teravainen at the center position for
the Lightning are another team he'd fit really well on.
Yeah. And the other thing too is you plug him in on any team, I think he'd fit in. Plays well at the center position, plays well on the wing, good speed, good shot, good passing. I stuck with the defense for the last couple teams, but
I'm starting to think that you don't like offense. You don't like scoring goals here, so goalies and defenders.
No, I just want to keep the puck out of the net. I'm like the Islanders right now. Like I just
Luke is going for those overtime losses.
Yeah. Just give me a point.
Yeah, get the 1 point.
Just give me a point. We'll take our chances in the shootout, and we'll call it a day there. I think Teuvo Teravainen is a great player. He was on that Stanley Cup team with Chicago after he was drafted. Moved over to Carolina and has played well there as well. So Kyle, what's 10th and last pick? Who's going to Tampa here?
Let's see what my notes say. This is Tampa. It's an acquired pick. I have their goaltending labeled as awful. I don't really know what that means. I did this like a month ago. So just
it's a good thing they took a goalie in the real draft then.
Bear with me. Matthew Guerin played 48 games, was 23-16 with a 2.85 goals against average. I don't know why I wrote awful there. Matthew Guerin. Oh, he's 33. Getting older, probably showing signs. I probably did a little bit more research that he's gently on the decline, 90% save percentage. Dwayne Rollison was their backup with an 88. They're going with Connor Hellebuck here with the 10th, I believe, for all the reasons you guys said earlier, but I can pull up his stats. Career 916 is pretty good. And they obviously were looking for goaltending. Got it in somebody else. So the next best option that they would have float up.
Yeah. Tampa's interesting in this draft because I feel like they were on the cusp of something great, right? I mean, like you look at those teams in 2013, 2014, I mean, all the way through to, you know, even through last year. And I know they're struggling a little bit because they're aging out a bit, but, you know, this draft was almost a start for their dynasty over the last decade. So many, you know, so many years where they were just dominant in the regular season and just got, you know, knocked out in the playoffs, and then, you know, the back-to-back Stanley Cup wins. You know, 2013 was a big turnaround for them. So yeah, having Connor Hellebuck would definitely help if the big cat was off the board.
They had Marty St. Louis, who's 36 years old at this time, Vinny LeCavalier, who is 31. They obviously had Stammer, and Hedman was only 20 at the time.
Yep.
Like they needed.
Did they still have Boyle?
Damn Boyle.
Damn Boyle. Or was he with San Jose at that time?
He was like, no, he's not here.
Okay. All right.
They did have JT Brown though.
Okay.
Who wore two different numbers, if you guys want that fun fact. He wore 19 and 49 throughout the season, so I'm pretty sure he was up and down, but he was only 21.
I just got a quick complaint. So, like, because you guys took the same two goalies, I was like, well, who was the third? Who was the, you know, how did the goalies fall in the real draft? And so, like, I'm looking on Wikipedia, and I'm not sure how to say his name, but Malcolm Subban.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
And I realize Wiki is not like this bastion of authority, but when they show like the statistics, it looks like they're combining a lot of. Okay, they do break out the NHL totals as well, but for a second, when I'm looking at this, it looked like they combined AHL and NHL stats together. So I was getting ready to rag on Wikipedia unnecessarily, but
yeah, they deserve a little rag.
yeah. Yeah, he did go in the first round as well. So just a few picks after Vasilevsky. So
no, Subban out of the draft was really highly regarded. I don't think it ever panned out for him. I think he moved around a lot. I want to say he was drafted by Vancouver.
Vegas.
Vegas. Well, no,
Boston. Sorry, Boston.
He was Boston. I think he went to Vancouver. I could be wrong.
He was one of the goalies, I think, drafted by Vegas in the expansion draft.
Yeah, and there was high hopes that he would take over after Marc-Andre Fleury, and that never panned out. And you know, obviously, Marc-Andre Fleury had 3 really great years with Vegas, so there wasn't really a need for him. And I think he's just kind of bounced around as just a backup goaltender over the last 10 years.
You know, Kyle, before I make my
solid years. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It looked like he had a couple solid years in 17-18 and then 18-19 and then declined from there and has been out of the league since 2020, basically. So,
wow. Yeah.
I was going to say,
21-22, he had 4 games. Sorry.
Was he's related to PK, right?
Yeah, they're brothers.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And then they have a younger brother that was a pickup of the Canucks.
That's who I'm thinking of. He was I think he was also a defenseman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think PK was really the only one that really panned out to the elite level of hockey.
Getting off a little bit on too much of a Malcolm Subban tangent right now. Got one pick in the draft left, guys. Let's do it to it.
Everybody wants to hear about Malcolm Subban. That's what.
Well, you know, it's weird because like this
podcast I'm here to listen for.
So.
Before I make my last pick, though, I do have to tell Kyle, I love the optics of Winnipeg passing up on their very real Vezina winning goaltender for a 4th-line center. I do think that's hilarious that they would pass up on Hellebuck, who already plays for them for Zemgus. With my last pick, though, I'm going to go to a guy that neither of you guys picked. I think he's one of the more underrated guys from the draft. I think that he gets a little bit further down in people's minds because he played for some bad teams in the mix there before he's finally gotten it together. But this is a guy who's 6th in this draft class, or 7 in this. No, I was right. 6th in this draft class in points, a ridiculous amount of points from the defenseman. Let's round it out here and give Tampa Bay a really good scoring defenseman for their second unit. Let's go with Shane Gostisbehere.
Wow.
Yep.
The ghost.
Ghost Bear. I think he'd be a great fit. I think, you know, when you look around the league, you know, there's a lot of great number 1 defensemen, but you don't realize how much a difference having a guy who could be your solid second pairing defenseman power play 2 quarterback can really make a difference for a team over the course of the regular season. And I think, they have Hedman already. I think Gossespierre would be a great fit in that second unit for the Lightning. So that's how I'm going to round this out. I think this was awesome, guys. I had a lot of fun.
It was cool.
This.
No, this was great.
I got to give a shout out to one of our loyal viewers, Mike, who had given me the idea for us to do one of these redraft episodes. So thank you, Mike. Hope you get a chance to watch this and check it out, and hope you enjoyed it. If anybody stumbles upon our video and has any other ideas for us, feel free to reach out and give us some ideas that you'd like to see on the show. It's been kind of cool. You were talking about Winnipeg just now. And one of the thoughts that I had is several of us, I forget who all had them number 1 in the power rankings, but just thinking about, that's the cool thing about the NHL is that, with the cap situation the way it is, Winnipeg is the smallest market of any of the big 4 teams in North American professional sports. And here they are number 1 in our power rankings. I mean, Winnipeg is the same size market as Boise, Idaho. I mean, seriously, like, I actually was looking this up because I thought a few times, I was like, I wonder if Boise could support an NHL team. And somebody laughed at me. And then I went and looked at Winnipeg. They're the same size market, almost the same population for their greater market area and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of cool to see a team like that being pretty good in their sport, despite having such a small market, and that the league is able to have that kind of opportunity for teams, unlike some of the other sports where the big market teams kind of rule the roost and that kind of thing. So sorry for the tangent, but it was just a thought that I had all of a sudden. Had to go on it.
There's other sports where big market teams can just defer a bunch of money, and
I wouldn't know those sports at all.
And those same sports have probably larger markets than Winnipeg, and spend less money than Winnipeg.
Very true.
Interesting.
Yeah, they also love hockey in Manitoba. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's like what they got.
That's true. That's true.
Well, and because I've been thinking about like other markets for hockey for the potential expansion down the road, because the expansion is always a hot topic among NHL fans. And personally, I'd like to see them go back to like Quebec City, because I hate relocation, even though my favorite professional sports team has relocated twice. So that's kind of an oxymoron, but they've been in the same place my whole life. So, but, I was kind of looking at places like Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, they have no other Big 4 professional sports team.
You got to fight with college baseball,
Well, I mean, and it's like a very big, they support sports very well. I mean, if you look at the College World Series, you look at things like they set the record for highest attended college volleyball game earlier this year. Granted, that's in Lincoln, but it's like an hour away, so it's not that far. But markets like that where I'm like, I wonder if a team that's not got so much congestion with other sports would work.
Yeah,
Omaha has the Lancers in the ECHL.
Well, I don't think anybody cares about the.
Hey, Terry Ryan Fight Club.
There's hockey. There's hockey to get into in any market.
No, I'm not saying that like nobody actually cares about the minor league team, but having a minor league team is not going to prevent you from having.
It's what's keeping the team out of Portland right now.
I know, man.
The Winterhawks are they're cornering the market for hockey in Portland.
We'll never get an NHL team.
No shot.
Well, that was a good episode, guys. I had fun with that. It provided me with a little history lesson. Looking at that 2012 draft. Appreciate you guys tonight. Has anybody got any final thoughts? Luke, what are your final thoughts for tonight?
I'm just, I'm on a high right now. But,
Luke's a Lions fan, if you can't tell. First time in his life seeing a playoff win.
I'll say this. Last year, Week 18 against Green Bay was probably one of the greatest football sporting events I have watched. It was kind of one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I can't tell you the the joy I felt last year. And it is like times a million, winning the division, winning a playoff game. And I know I've spoken to y'all about this, but it could have gone either way. Matt Stafford is a fighter, and I hope the best for him as well. I would have been okay if he beat us as well, because he's a competitor. But off the football topic, highs on football, lows in hockey. Feeling for Connor Bedard right now. Broken jaw. He's going to be out for a good amount of time. I think he's still got shot to win Rookie of the Year, even with all the time out. But it's been a tough go for Chicago and Chicago fans. Everything with Corey Perry, earlier injuries in the year. I know there wasn't high expectations for them, but you hate to see your star rookie taking time out. But hopefully he will heal up, and they'll get back on track.
Fantilli's going to catch him.
What are your final thoughts tonight?
Fantilli's going to catch him if he's injured. But I'm going to bring up a little bit about my life. I play a lot of NHL 24, and one of my standard pickups for a right-handed defenseman is Ethan Bear. And when I picked up the game and I started my franchise, I didn't have Ethan Bear to pick up, and I was like, what? Like, he doesn't have a contract, doesn't have anything. But it turns out he had shoulder surgery in June, and he was an unrestricted free agent. Teams were waiting to make sure that he got healthy before they started courting him, and he signed a 2-year, $4.125 million contract with the Washington Capitals. This was just a couple of weeks ago. I know I've been out for a while, but it was nice to see that even though he was a UFA and was hurt, was able to come back into the league and get a generous offer, because he's well worth it. What about you, John?
And on a little bit of a positive note, you guys bring up the Winnipeg Jets a couple years ago, their first overall pick, Rutger McGroarty. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. The captain of the U.S. junior team that just won golds at World Juniors. With all this talk of international play with NHL guys coming back, it's great to see a huge influx of talent coming into the U.S. rosters, winning worlds or coming in second or third over the last couple of years. It's fun time to be a U.S. fan. The whole team was stacked. And special shout out as a Ranger fan to both Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue. Hoping to see you guys in Broadway soon enough. That's where I'm at. Congratulations to the U.S. team.
All right. Before I give my final thoughts, I just want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you hit the like button on this video and to hit that subscribe button on our channel, so that way you're notified whenever we come on for future episodes. Really appreciate everybody watching, giving their feedback on our episodes. And my final thoughts tonight: Edmonton Oilers, 10 in a row. It's a franchise record, so I had to use this opportunity. First season on the Oilers bandwagon here, and they win, break a franchise record for the most consecutive wins in a season, and it's not stopping anytime soon. They're going to take out the Maple Leafs tomorrow night. So looking forward to some more games, and Stu Skinner's been playing awesome behind, in front of the goal there. So looking forward to the rest of this season. Thanks, guys. Good night.